In this lecture, we'll talk about the question what we mean when we say that we have explained something. There are actually two different perspectives on sociological explanations. According to one perspective, it means that we have to come up with a causal explanation. But another perspective argues instead that a true explanation means that we understand the behavior of individuals. These perspectives are often seen as opposites. So it's said that you can support one of the two, but not both perspectives. In this lecture, I will tell you more about these two perspectives and argue that both perspectives can be fruitfully combined. Let's start with the first perspective, which focuses on causal explanations. Now suppose we want to explain why capitalism emerged in Western Europe in the 16th century. Using a conceptual model, we can argue that capitalism arises in countries which shifted to Protestantism. And this is an example of a causal explanation. X affects Y. Such a causal explanation is also called an ecological explanation because both the independent variable, Protestant society, and the dependent variable, capitalist society, are at a collective ecological level. Ecological explanations provide an explanation for certain meso or macro level outcomes with attributes at the meso or macro level. And what is missing, therefore, is the behavior of individuals. Another point of critique is that such causal explanations suffer from understanding. It's not clear why Protestant countries become capitalist societies. What is missing in the explanation is a theory on why the variables are related to each other. Causal explanations are also called Blackbox explanations because the theoretical mechanism which links X to Y is missing. It's a black box. It's unclear what happened unless we open the box. So we don't have a mechanism, a theoretical reasoning underlying the causal effect of X on Y. Another word for causal explanation is variable sociology. Causal explaining variable sociology is characterized by stipulating causal relationships between independent and dependent variables, and the main focus is on causality. And it typically focuses on the ecological level, and it leaves out theoretical mechanisms, which makes it a black box explanation. And this model of explanation is also referred to with the German word Erklaren. A different perspective on explaining is called subjective understanding, or Verstehen in German. This perspective emerged as a critique on the causal explaining perspective, right? The Erklaren perspective. The subjective understanding perspective argues that the true explanation focuses on the individual level, at the behavior of individuals, on actors and humans, not on variables or ecological relations. And it argues that we should try to make sense of why individuals behave in a certain way, given their subjective interpretations of the specific situation in which they are embedded. Now, such understanding of human behavior opens the black box of ecological relationships and variable sociology. This subjective understanding perspective is often linked to the work of Max Weber. And so when people talk about Verstehen, they have in mind the idea that sociologists should develop theories that consider the subjective interpretations of individuals. Traditionally, these two perspectives are often seen as opposites, as conflicting. Either you go for a causal explanation, or you try to understand the subjective behavior of individuals. The idea here is that causal explanations cannot be combined with subjective meaning. So, how people interpret the world cannot be captured in propositions, in general laws. Each individual is unique, and all science can do is to describe how actors interpret the world. Nowadays, however, more and more sociologists think that these two perspectives can be combined. And the key idea is that as sociologists, we can make simplifying assumptions on human agency. For example, we may assume that people follow social norms of their community, or that people, in general, strive for status. These are simplifying behavioral assumptions, and they can be formulated as propositions in a scientific way. And in this way, we can make the behavior of individuals understandable. In summary, two perspectives prevail on sociological explanations. One focuses on causal explanations, variables, and the ecological level, and the other focuses on the individual level, on understanding human behavior. And traditionally, these two perspectives have been seen as, conflicting. But nowadays, most scholars argue that they can be combined if we make simplifying assumptions about human behavior. In that way, you can understand the behavior of individuals and at the same time come up with causal explanations. The next step is to combine the micro and meso or macro level with each other in a multi-level framework. How you can do this, we'll see in the next lecture. Okay, thanks.